Hey everybody, I just got back from vacation in Hawaii. What did I do while I was there? Naturally, I fired up the Google machine and I found a comic shop. In this video, we're going to check out what I was able to find while I was on vacation in Hawaii. All right, like I said, I was on vacation in Hawaii. My wife and I went to Honolulu for our anniversary. It was kind of a wild experience. We got there right as they were finishing up what had been several days of just torrential downpours. Everything was sopping wet, including us and all of our luggage, but we made the best of it. A few days in, I was able to negotiate a little time, and Mrs. Como was generous enough to let me spend some time on our anniversary trip to hit up a local comic shop and pick up some books. While I was there, I shot a little bit of footage. So let's take a look at some of that footage right quick. And on the other side of it, I'll show you the pile of books I picked up while I was there. So as you guys saw, I was at Other Realms Ltd, a great comic shop in Honolulu, and I gotta say, I spent $110 before tax, and I'm really happy with what I came away with. I spent a couple of hours in there digging, and they were really great, and let me go through the stuff that was kind of behind the counter that was to fill some of their price is marked stuff, and I did pretty good in that stuff. So let's get into what I picked up. A lot of this stuff is for the personal collection. A few of these will probably wind up in the inventory, but starting off is Bone 11 and Bone 12. These finish my cartoon books run of Bone. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that earlier this year I was able to pick up a really nice run of Bone from a woman who actually worked at the printing shop that made the first 20 issues of Bone. Well, I got 1 through 10 from her, and unfortunately the copies of 11 and 12 that she had were water damaged, so she wound up just throwing those out. So I had dug in my inventory and I actually had issues 13 through 20, all first prints. So I just nabbed those out of the inventory. So I had this 2-issue gap that I was able to fill while I was on vacation. And so now I'm good with Bone. I'm probably not going to chase the Image series that goes on from issue 21 and up. I've got the giant Bone compendium or whatever it's called. It's a great book. I just don't care to own all that in single issues. So I'm pretty satisfied to be able to just kind of check those last 2 boxes off and call that one good. Next up, I found a low-grade copy of Creatures on the Loose number 30. This is a great Man-Wolf story. It's Man-Wolf's first solo outing. So if you watched our recent top 10 comics on a $100 budget video, I talked about Adventure into Fear number 20, which is the first solo Morbius outing. This book is the exact same thing, only it's for Man-Wolf instead of Morbius. It's got some first appearances of characters that are actually going to appear in the Morbius movie. I think it's another one of those great first solo title or first solo story issues for some of the horror related characters from the 70s that's kind of been on the back burner or overlooked by the community for a while. Found this, I think it was $7, $6-7. So it needs a little TLC. I've cleaned it up a little bit already, but it's a good looking book. It's really structurally solid and would be a great copy for somebody. But if you don't already have a copy of that book, I'd look it up. It's worth your time. Next up, I picked up a copy of Cyblade She number 1, which if you're grew up on 90s comics like I did, if you're an 80s and 90s kid, you know what this issue is. It's the first appearance of Witchblade. And that's kind of one of the things I've been doing in 2021 is just going back and picking up some of those issues that were in the top 10 when I was a kid. So you'd get Wizard magazine every month, you'd flip to the top 10 comics, and it was always things like X-Files 1, She number 1, Cyblade She number 1, Lady Death 1, Dawn 1, all these things, all these crazy 90s titles. That's the kind of stuff I've been tracking down a lot this year, and I was happy to find this one at a reasonable price. It needs a little bit of a press. It's not a 9.8 candidate by any means, but I just paid a few bucks for it, and it checks that box in my collection, so very happy with that. And it's a cool book, and it may be a good spec-worthy book if, you know, we get to the point where Witchblade gets optioned. I talked about The Darkness a few months back in a video. That would tie directly in. Witchblade, of course, ties directly into The Darkness. So if and when one or the other of those two properties ever gets developed, chances are the other one's going to be pretty close right behind it. So might be worth checking out. The next book I picked up is Marvel Tales number 23. Of course, these are Spider-Man reprints. This is still back in the square bound days. Not too long after this, I think it's in the early 30s, they switched the format of the book to where it goes from being square bound to just a regular bound comic book, or a regular folded comic book, regular sized comic book, however you want to say that. This one actually reprints, I think it's Amazing Spider-Man 30. Yeah, the cat. So it reprints Amazing Spider-Man 30, and it's got some other stuff in there. But one of the things I'm doing in my personal collection is I'm just collecting all the square bound reprints of the Amazing Spider-Man stuff. Some of them have different covers, and it's just fun. They're inexpensive. I generally pay between $4 and $7 for these things, and this one's in pretty nice shape. It's just a fun way to continue to chase Silver Age Marvel stuff without breaking the bank. There's so many reprint titles that Marvel put out in the 60s just to give people who are hopping on, getting into the Marvel universe of comics after, 1961, 62, 63. If you were coming on board in 66, 67, or 68, they wanted to give you the opportunity to own those previously released issues, or at least be able to go back and read the stories so you knew the whole story. And Marvel Tales is just a fun, casual title I like to collect when I find them for a good price. The next couple books I picked up actually tie into some spec I've got going on. I feel like Secret Invasion's not getting a lot of attention right now. I know it's on the Disney Plus slate, but we've got enough things that are more up front and center that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about or thinking about Secret Invasion much right now. So first one I grabbed, and this is a book I grab anytime I see it. I've got quite a few. This is New Avengers number 31, and with the Hawkeye show going on and Echo being so front and center, I love this issue because it's got just a key Echo moment. Whether or not it's going to translate into the show, whether or not they'll use it, I don't know. But if you know the character Echo, it doesn't get any better than this. It's literally Echo pulling a bullseye and just running through Elektra. It has some pretty major story ramifications. If you know much about Secret Invasion, you'll figure it out pretty quick, but it's just such a mind-blowing moment. If you're reading this month to month back in the day, it was just kind of a kind of situation when you turn the page. But if Echo's going to continue to be front and center in the Disney Plus shows, Secret Invasion is coming up in the Disney Plus shows, it just seems like this is going to be a moment we're going to get. And right now you can pick this thing up for, I mean, peanuts. It's a $1 bin to a $3 bin book anytime I find it. But I think it has the potential to easily become a $10 to $15 to $20 book if we see that moment, if Echo catches on and continues to have success, or if Echo's able to find a foothold and build a fan base based on the characters' appearances in the Disney Plus shows. So again, it's a low risk situation, and if nothing else, it's still just a cool book and a cool moment. So that's one I've got a small cachet of. And the next one is Secret Invasion number 3. The reason I like this book, it's actually when we learn that Spider-Woman is not Spider-Woman, it's the Skrull Queen. It's kind of a subtle little moment there, but kind of important. You've seen, I believe it's new Avengers number 40, which is the first appearance of the Skrull Queen, really take off. So this seems like a nice moment that could potentially get hot, have a little bit of hype behind it. And Secret Invasion number 1 is already taken off. Secret Invasion 8 is climbing up there. Seems probable that some of the other key moments from this series could eventually start to see price increases as well. So when I found that for a couple bucks, I was willing to take the risk. The next book I picked up was Spectacular Spider-Man 178. This has a cool Vermin cover, and it's also the first appearance of Dr. Ashley Kafka, who's tied to the Goblin Queen. Goblin Queen is coming up in the current arc of Spider-Man. So this previous dollar book is now selling for 10 to 15 bucks. I found it still hiding in the discount or the low dollar bins, so I picked this copy up. We'll see where that goes. I don't know if that's going to be much of a sustained price increase or not, but you know, for a few bucks, why not? I'll give it a shot. Next up is a book I picked up for my personal collection. This is Thor 135. It's Thor versus the Super Beast. It's also the part 2 of the introduction of the High Evolutionary, and it's also the last issue of Thor I needed kind of in those early issues to connect a couple of runs. So now I'm up to where I think the next issue I need somewhere in the 160s. It's not a super high grade copy. It's probably in that VG plus, VG fine range, but it presents pretty well. It's yellowed a little bit, but still got good color. So I was happy with it for the price they had it marked. So I decided to pick that up. If the High Evolutionary does show up, that's a book that could potentially shoot up in value. And I didn't want to pass this pretty decent copy at a solid price, hoping I'd find a better deal. And if my luck would play out the way it normally does, it would explode and I'd pay 3 times the price for a worse copy. So bite the bullet, enjoy life a little, and treat myself. Now, the next 2 books I found were actually 2 of 3 copies of this book that were in the store. I'm not sure what was going on. When I pulled them out, they had some labels that not only had the price on it, but had another 4-digit number, which I'm assuming was the month and year they were priced. And if that was the case, one of these books was priced in 2018. The other book was priced in 2019. And the third copy they had of this issue must have been more recently priced because it was the most beat up of the 3. And the price of that beat up copy was more than double the collective price of these 2 copies. So what I picked up, and if you follow me on Instagram, if not, check me out at como.comics.books. You've already kind of got a preview of these, but I picked up 2 copies of Marvel Spotlight number 4 for really good prices. I gave $20 for one of them and $25 for the other. They're both really nice mid-grade copies. One of them's a bit higher than the other. You know, that's just the way it goes. But of course, this is the first appearance of the Darkhold. As we're getting closer to the Multiverse of Madness, I'm assuming this book is going to be something that collectors in the market are seeking out. Nobody really was too interested in the Darkhold until we got to the end of WandaVision, and then just, you know, this thing exploded. So finding 3 copies of that book at one store and being able to bring 2 of them home for really, really good prices, I couldn't pass that deal up. So I was happy to grab these 2, and I'm going to give them a little TLC, give them a little clean, a little press. And I actually don't have one of these in the PC, so I may wind up holding on to one of these just to fill that spot in my Marvel Spotlight collection. But all in all, very happy with the things I found. The store was really awesome. Had everything from comics to gaming to toys, new books, you name it. If you're into collectibles or kind of nerdy stuff, that store definitely had something for you. The comic guy did a really good job for the most part in keeping his inventory priced accurately. I go pretty deep into this stuff, and this is really, you know, this small stack of books is all I found that I thought there was some room on, some money to be made, or, you know, were just good values that I decided to pick up. They really did a good job overall in the comics department. So if you're ever in Honolulu, I wouldn't hesitate to stop by this store. So I hope you enjoyed checking out what I picked up while I was on vacation. I only spent $110, and there's definitely way more than that in value here. Of course, most of that is in the Marvel Spotlight 4s. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I think I won on this trip. So thanks for watching, collect responsibly, and I will see you in the next one.